Welcome to another Animal Reiki event from the UK Reiki Federation, and today's talk is about understanding animals. We're not looking specifically at a teaching session here. It's very much explaining what you need to know in regard of understanding animals when you're offering Reiki to them. And it's going to be particularly relevant for anybody who is wishing to apply for Animal Reiki practitioner membership with our organisation. So if you also want to be a master practitioner or a teacher, again, the same principles apply. So I'm going to put a few slides on now. I'll talk you through those and I will join you at the end. Okay, so what this talk will include, first of all, why understanding animals is essential. A little bit about working with animals, and if you have attended any of our other talks or events, some of this information you will have come across before, but in a different context. Helping animals in different situations and emotional states, understanding body language, major organ and bone location, which is a key part of the very, very top line anatomy and physiology that we're going to mention. And then essential legislation, guidance, and health and safety information. So we'll start off with why understanding animals is essential. First thing is trust. And you can see from the two images of the cats here, the first one is a cat that could quite easily have been rehomed recently, just come into a rescue, could be a stray, could just be a cat that is a little bit timid or nervous and is liking to be in its little box. And this cat does not want to be frightened and upset such that it could end up in the situation of the second image. So what we need to do as practitioners is really make sure that we enable the animal to trust us. And we need to build confidence in the animal that they feel safe with us. And there are lots of different ways that we do this, but it comes down very much to how we approach the animal, how we give them the respect that they deserve, and how we understand what they're communicating through their body language and other means so that we can give them the service that they deserve from a professional practitioner. This will build on your credibility and it will help you in terms of confidence as well going forward, especially if you're in the early stages of learning. Once you become to be a practitioner, then we would expect this to be commonplace and you really do need to know how to work with animals. It's absolutely vital that you respect the animal. You have respect for them, their situation, their feelings, their emotions. Sometimes we have no idea what some of these animals have been through. And so we just have to be really respectful of that and accept that they could be in a very difficult situation. Animals, as we know, are sentient beings. They have feelings just like us. And in that way, they grieve just like us. They have lots of emotions that we just need to take into consideration because they can react in different ways and respond in different ways if you don't treat them in an ideal way. Earned by you is something that you will gain, as in the respect you earn from an animal, but also from an owner, a carer, a vet, any other professional that you may be working alongside. You need to show that you understand the animal, for the animal to respond in an ideal way, for others to realise you do know what you're doing and you're doing a really great job and you're helping the animal in the optimum way to get the best possible results for that animal at that time in that situation. And this very much comes down to showing your professionalism, and this will be recognised. So you'll get the optimum response with the best results, which then means that you are able to receive good feedback from others. And it's wonderful when second hand or third hand, somebody comes to you and says, oh, I've heard about you from so-and-so. I wondered if you could help my animal. I remember a situation where I actually had been helping an animal, and it was quite some time ago. And then another lady called me and said, oh, could you offer some Reiki to my dog? And it just happened that she discovered me by speaking to somebody she'd never met before in a garden centre, because they were discussing that person's dog and their issues, and I'd help them. So you never know where your good work is going to take you, but it's always vital that we always understand the animal to make sure that we give them the best possible care and service. And just how we approach an animal is a key part of this, but it's a topic on its own. It's quite a big subject, and we just need to understand it isn't just how you walk up to the animal, how far you are away, but there are lots of other aspects to it as well. So working with animals, many general animal Reiki considerations or actions that we have may have an impact on or may require an understanding of the animal. So for example, when we're going to conduct animal Reiki sessions, or we're even asked if we could possibly do, the first thing is to get some notes to prepare where the session's going to be held, and to make sure that we are asking the right questions when we are taking those notes as well, so that we're gathering all the information that we need to enable us to give the best possible session. So we then will be deciding whether or not to offer Reiki. Is it appropriate in this situation for this animal? And does the animal actually wish to receive it? Because animals always have to lead. How to offer Reiki is another consideration. So different techniques that we might be using based on training and expertise, and always working within those boundaries, always. Does the animal wish to receive Reiki? And if so, how? So what distance away? Or do they want to be pushing their body into your hands? For how long? There are lots of different options and considerations, but by letting the animal lead, we will make sure that we are letting them show us what they want. And constantly we need to be watching their body language and just seeing how it changes, and how therefore we need to perhaps adapt what we're doing. What about rescue and rehomed animals? Then again, we want to gather as much information as we can. Sometimes there is very little information, and so we just work again from a position of considering that this animal could have had some trauma in the past, and that we don't want to aggravate that. So always working from a position of distance and letting the animal lead. So working with different animals, different animal types, and understanding them. So giving Reiki to a bird is going to be quite different to giving Reiki to a cow, for example. And you just need to understand a little bit about the different types of animals that you're going to be working with, and how they may respond, and what's a natural characteristic which is a positive or a negative one for them. So there is a lot more, and we have discussed a lot more within other sessions that we've been running as well, but this gives you a broad outline for some of the considerations that are vital as a first step when you're preparing for offering Reiki to animals. We've also looked at the animal client information form and consent, so I'm not going to go through this in a lot of detail. We have done on the talk, which was thinking about applying for Animal Reiki practitioner membership. So if you wish to understand more about the key aspects that relate to this form, also what is involved in the application, what you need to know to be able to apply, then please have a look at that talk. This one is just here really as a reminder that this is also key information, and information that you gather here will help you to know more about the animal and how you're going to approach the session. And I have underlined veterinary diagnoses because I just want to stress the absolute crucial necessity of making sure that you ask for not just current but previous diagnoses, and you have them all neatly written on your form so that you're not going to be repeating something inappropriately which hasn't been diagnosed that you've perhaps heard said. And you're not actually saying something yourself that hasn't been diagnosed. And if there are issues that haven't been diagnosed, and obviously we need to make sure that a vet is seen. So always please make sure you record veterinary diagnosis. And if under medical history on a form that you may have yourself, and we need you to have all of these different topics, if on a form you're not always writing the diagnosis and whether an animal is on medication, please add these as subject headings into your form. These details provide essential information for your treatment, and if you want a copy of our template form with a copy of a template consent, then please go to our website. Under the Animal Reiki section, you will find resources, and in there you will find these as free resources which are available for you to download. Okay, now on to the new information in terms of understanding animals. So we need to understand animals in particular when we're helping animals in different emotional states. So you'll see here images of 3 cats. These are images that come from a much wider number. I think we've got about 27 or more images within Understanding Animals, which is the publication, A Working Guide for Reiki Practitioners. And you can see just from these images that the animals have different emotional states. So their eyes are different, their ears are different. You can see one is very relaxed, the other 2 are definitely not so. And how you would approach them in a Reiki session would be and needs to be very different. So when you're looking at body language, you're not just looking at one aspect, you're looking at the whole picture. So for example, you've got what's happening to the eyes, the ears, whiskers, if there are whiskers on the particular animal, the overall body posture, the fur, what are the paws doing, what are the hooves or the feet, what are the tail doing. You're looking at how tense is the body, how relaxed is it, and you're combining these different aspects to give you that body language to tell you the animal's behaviour. And watching animals generally is a really good way to get used to seeing what animals are doing in different states. And the more you see it, the more you learn. So as I said, we've got 3 different animals here, and in the Understanding Animals publication, you will have for cats, dogs and horses 9 different images showing and detailing all the different behavioural or sort of body language aspects that you would expect to see in those different positions under different states. So these are important, not just for you to recognise and treat appropriately within a session, but if there happened to be a situation where you needed to handle an animal. Now in Reiki, generally we do not, but there may be situations where you find yourself in a situation where the animal is not feeling perhaps at ease, or something has happened. Maybe a horse has become such that he's feeling very dominant and pushed you against the wall. Do you know what to do? So you just need to know that you feel comfortable with sufficient knowledge to be able to protect yourself, the animal, and anybody else or any other animals in the vicinity should the need arise. How you will offer Reiki will, as we mentioned, depend very much on the state of the animal and the situation. And then there's the thought, what about if the animal is in pain? If the animal is in pain, there will be certain physical, mental and emotional signs as well. And it may be that picking up on those signs helps to identify that the animal could be in pain and that hadn't previously been realised. So by picking these up, it may be something that you then mention to an owner, a carer, or somebody who's responsible for the animal, just to watch them and see, could they be suffering and do they need a veterinary appointment? But also, if they are in pain, animals may react differently. So these are the types of things that, again, you need to know how might they react, how would you treat them differently. And as we mentioned, learning by studies is great, but learning by observation and practice in the real world is how you really learn. It cements the learning. So just to give you one example of a body language sign, and here we have a dog yawning. So this could mean more than one thing. It could mean that the dog is tired. Yes, like us, they do yawn. And I'm actually trying to stop a yawn now. I'm just reacting to just the sight of the dog. You may be doing likewise. The dog may be nice and relaxed, and a person who doesn't really know a lot about animals in terms of understanding their body language may think, oh, this is great, animals starting to relax now, oh, this is lovely, they're enjoying it. Actually, it could be very different. It could be that this yawn is what's known as a calming signal, and the dog is issuing this calming signal to indicate that he or she is actually not feeling very comfortable with the situation. It could be that you're too near, or that they just don't want to be receiving Reiki and they feel they're perhaps enclosed somewhere. So there are lots of reasons why calming signals are issued. And again, these are all the sorts of things that we'll discuss in some further training that I'm going to organise on an Understanding Animals workshop. So again, if that's something that may be of interest, details will be on the UK Reiki Federation website. So any of these are possible, but there are lots of other calming signals. So by being aware of them, it just lets you know, right, okay, so I've seen this sign and I've seen this sign. Maybe I just need to step back. Maybe I just need to stop the Reiki for a minute and then just let the animal come back if not he or she would like to progress. So know the signals, know what to do. Ignoring it, and it could actually result in something quite serious. And in the Understandings Animal workshop, which will be a several-hour teaching session, I have a nice little chart which shows traffic lights from light green down to pale green, yellows, orange, and then red, steps to a dog bite. And by being aware as to how animals show the next stage of I'm not happy, I'm really not happy, I'm very frustrated, I'm not giving you another warning anymore, and I'm going to bite. And recognizing these different states is really important. And likewise, you could be really seriously injured with a horse kicking you. So just be aware, and yes, do learn them. And in the Understanding Animals publication, then you will find all of this different information with regard to top line on body language signs, with several indications for each of the animals in each of the different states. It isn't totally comprehensive. There is a little bit more, but I will add more to that in the training. And if you're interested, then obviously, as I said, just look at www.reikifed.co.uk, and details will be provided there when workshops are running. So helping animals in different situations is the next topic, and this is the sort of information in terms of what the situations is and what's causing it that you should be gathering in your animal Reiki preparation. So it overlaps with Understanding Animals and also just general animal Reiki training, so it should be in your general training, but there is an overlap because the more you understand animals, the more you might pick up aspects that you might ask questions about. So I know we have cats here, but let's say, for example, you were going to give Reiki to a dog at somebody's house, and every time the owner or carer just got up while you were coming in and sitting down, and maybe they went to get you a glass of water, the dog gets up and follows and then kind of sits down to them. Again, that could be an indication, without anything having been said, that that dog has separation anxiety. So these are the sort of aspects which you should be aware of. And if it doesn't come out in discussion, you can ask questions to make sure that you are going to offer the Reiki in the best way to help the animal in the situation that it's in, perhaps mentally and emotionally, as well as the reason why the Reiki may have been requested, which could be very much for, let's just say, a sore paw. So when we're working with animals, we know that Reiki is holistic, and we work with the animal or with a person when we're offering human Reiki to help physically, mentally and emotionally. And we have to remember that when we're understanding animals, we also have to think of them in terms of physically, mentally and emotionally too, in terms of how they feel and how they might respond. So we're thinking about influencing factors on situations. So it could be people, it could be other animals, it could be a particular location where a situation arises. It could be environmental factors such as noises, and there can be a combination. It could be that a dog or a horse only reacts when its owner is out with them, but it doesn't react when it's out with somebody else. So is the cause actually the animal? So again, this is an area where you're learning by observation as well as studies, and more importantly by practice. The more you're practicing helping animals in different situations, the more you're learning for future occasions. So how we work with animals for the best results depends on a number of factors, and learning as much as possible in advance can help. So obviously we've mentioned that sometimes you're working with animals where there isn't a background. Sometimes it may be an emergency situation, but where you can gather information, it is really helpful and useful to do so. So basic animal anatomy and physiology. What do we expect you to know as a Reiki practitioner? So we're not expecting you to be experts. This is not what it's all about. But there are certain aspects which we do think are really important for you to know. So horse points, for example, if working with a horse, you want to make sure that you do know where different points are. So let's say, for example, you were asked to work with a horse. Horse is absolutely fine, just don't touch the withers. You need to know where that is. In terms of major bone and organ locations, then within the application, there will be a couple of questions. One on major bones, one on major organ locations. And all we're looking for is to make sure that you have a broad idea where different organs are and which they are. So it will be as simple as this illustration in terms of identifying the letters. And some of you may be thinking, but we don't need this as a Reiki practitioner. Reiki is just Reiki, and energy flows where it flows. And we agree, it does. But it is very useful to have this as basic knowledge. And it's really interesting to know. If you are asked by somebody to help an animal who has a problem with their liver or their kidneys, it is interesting to know where that is. It can be beneficial for communications, and also it's expected by many other health professionals, especially if, for example, there was an issue with a major bone and you were asked to offer the Reiki. And there was no obvious bandaging, although all work had been done by the vet that needed to be done. You just need to make sure you've got a rough idea where the injury or surgery or accident had been. So onto legislation guidance and health and safety factors. So Reiki practitioners, first of all, have to comply with the Royal College of Veterinary Surgeons requirements. So RCVS is the abbreviation for Royal College of Veterinary Surgeons, and you'll see RCVS regularly used. So their requirements are set out in the Veterinary Surgeons Act, which is sometimes known as the Act. And there is a particular section for the treatment of animals by unqualified persons. And unqualified here doesn't mean that we're unqualified in our work. It means we're not qualified as vets, but obviously we have to be qualified in our work to be offering Reiki to animals. So if you're wanting to look at these details, then you want to find section 19 of the supporting guidance to the Veterinary Surgeons Act, and this will tell you all the details in terms of what you are not allowed to do. You also need to be aware of the Complementary Medicines Statement issued November 2017, which also gives backup information. And this is a statement that was issued several years ago when there was the media statement about homeopathy having been banned. It wasn't banned, it just fell under the heading of this statement, as do therapies like Reiki. So animal welfare is another aspect, and again, it's something which most Reiki practitioners may not think about to start with, but you do need to know the 5 animal welfare needs. They apply to domestic animals as well as farm animals, and it isn't your responsibility to do anything significant, but if you see animals who are not being looked after in the way that these welfare needs indicate are essential requirements for animals, then it would be ethical and appropriate for you to mention something about these standards or these welfare needs. Does the owner or carer know about them? Or if it's a bad case, to report it. And along with the Animal Welfare Act, there are a number of codes of practice, an equine one, one for cats, one for dogs. This gives you lots more information if you want to do additional reading. And again, it gives you really good background information for any animal owner or carer. So legislation, guidance and health and safety factors. Notifiable diseases, you can obtain this information from a government website. You need to make sure you have a list. We're not going to be diagnosing them, but if somebody asks you about to help an animal with one, you need to know what is legally required of you. If you're working with farm animals, again, you can obtain this information from a government website. You need to be aware of biosecurity measures, and again, all of this is included in the publication down at the bottom here on the right. Red flag symptoms, again, these are absolutely essential. You need to have a list, you need to know what to do, and you need to be aware of them. I will add that there isn't a defined list, but there are commonly quoted symbols, and we have put together what we would consider as the key symptoms that you should be aware of, and if you see them, then know what to do. And again, just as a reminder to only act within your area of expertise. Don't try and do something you're not qualified or trained to do. Make sure you act to inform the right person or whatever the required action is. And again, all of this will be discussed in a lot more detail in the Understanding Animals workshops. So that is the end of the presentation. And I'm pleased to say that we have had a lot of interest in understanding animals, which is great because it's all about raising awareness amongst anybody who works with animals, whether you are a Reiki practitioner with animals, whether you work with people but you just want to know more for your own animals, or whether you are on a journey and you would like to develop your work with animals going forward. So please have a look at our website. Please have a look at a workshop if that interests you, or in the publication. It's available from the publication section of the website, which is www.reikifed.co.uk. Go to the shop and then you'll see the publication. And if you have any queries, please get in touch with us. If they are animal Reiki queries, then please email animalreiki@reikifed.co.uk. And if you have general inquiries about Reiki membership or Reiki in general, then please email admin@reikifed.co.uk. Thank you.